Abuna Gregory, we're so happy that you're here with us tonight. So, Abuna Gregory, probably this is the first time Abuna to come to us in this meeting, right?
Yes.
At the Edge meeting. So we're happy to have you, and thank you for coming. And I know Abuna made some kind of not adjustment, but his adjustment to his own personal schedule to be with us today. So we really appreciate it. So please join me in welcoming Abuna Gregory. Thank you.
Thank you. Have you absolved me? In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. So I know that you guys are going through some kind of series about dating. So, and today we're going to talk about how to actually approach someone, how to actually start a conversation and dating in general. So a few things that we're going to go over. So I'll just introduce, I'm sure that a lot of what I'm going to say in the first maybe 5 or 6 slides, you heard it in the last talk. And maybe even we'll hear it in the next talk. So we'll talk about how men and women are different. Very short thing. Being ready. Things to consider before asking someone out. What am I really asking for? How parents get involved. This is a big one. What am I actually asking for? How to ask. I think this one is the one that we'll spend the most time on. How to actually ask someone. What stops us from asking someone out. What not to do, and what is rejection and how to deal with it. And finally, like not really about going through courting or the idea of dating, but more like things that we should remember as we're dating. And I'm sure that Abuna John, I haven't spoken to him, will talk about this properly for his talk. So this will lead into his talk. Although I don't know what he's going to talk about, but I'm very sure he will talk about that. Okay, so I'm sure that you've already heard this part. Finding someone is not really about finding someone else. It's first about finding God. If we don't find God, if we're waiting for someone to save us, then we're waiting for the wrong thing. Only God can save us, right? No one is going to save me. No one's going to change my situation. No one is going to help me like God can. Marriage is not a solution. Actually, I was a funny joke once. A father was saying, like, every single person thinks that all of their problems will be solved if they get married. And every married person thinks that all of their problems will be solved if they weren't married. So finding God is number one. He is the solution to all of our problems. I want to say this. I don't know if this was said already, but just in case you don't know, you don't have a soulmate. There's no such thing as a soulmate. Was this said, Abuna? Yes, good. Thank God. There's no such thing as a soulmate. And the reason why I'm going to say this is because this will lead into about asking someone out. Learning to be normal around others, or more specifically, learning to be normal around people from the other gender. I know that, and it's good that in our culture it's a bit more normalized. So, for example, I'll tell you a little story. When I was serving in Africa for a while, and I remember, we would come down and have meals. So there was like 2 Canadians and 2 American girls, and then there was a bunch of Egyptian guys, and I can tell right away that the Egyptian guys did not know how to act around girls. Like for us, it was normal. We can talk to them and be normal around them. But for them, it was like a whole different world. And like they were just very flustered and unable to do anything. So it's very important that we spend some time as a group with the other gender, whether that's in a meeting here today, going out as a group, being together as a group, just to normalize this idea of talking and being with people from the other gender. Finally, I want to mention that you're not going to change anyone. So the person, all of their flaws, all of their weaknesses will not get better by your intervention. You're not there to save anyone, just like no one is there to save you. You're not going to change anyone. Okay. I don't know if this was said, but this is very, very important. And this, I think, is more important for the women more than the men. So generally, men enter into relationships seeking what kind of connection? What do you guys think? What are men attracted to more, and what are women attracted to more? Men get into relationships seeking a physical connection. Women enter into relationships seeking an emotional connection. So this is super important. Like,
It has to come from a married person.
it's very important that we recognize this. Men are seeking a physical connection. Like, this is just how men are wired. Women are seeking an emotional connection. And the problem with this is that sometimes, like I'm going to speak from, I'll try to give both examples. So sometimes women think that because they're seeking an emotional connection, if they give themselves physically, then it improves their relationship, right? Because they're giving what the man wants. But they're not getting the kind of connection they're looking for. So this is not very healthy. Women are seeking an emotional connection. Men and women can't be friends at your age, but they can. What does that mean? So you can, like I was saying, you should normalize being with others in a group. What's not normal, and happens unfortunately often, is that men and women might get into some kind of relationship, like texting in the middle of the night. Texting like, oh, I hope you have a good day, but it's just a guy and a girl. They're not in some kind of actual relationship. But for some reason, this becomes normal. This is not healthy. It's not healthy for a man and a woman to have a private friendship, right, and not be in a relationship. You can be friends. I can know who you are from the opposite sex, and I can have a conversation with you. I can be normal, but I can't have a deep friendship. I can't call you and say, hey, what are you doing? Let's go out and have dinner together. Something is wrong. I hope people, what do you guys think? Do you agree or disagree on that? I would expect some kind of pushback. Yes.
I kind of disagree a little bit.
Are you married?
Yes.
Okay, tell me. So if you wanted to have like, you wanted to go out with your friends,
Yeah.
but your friends are all guys.
Well, like a huge group, no, but like.
So you and a friend, you have a friend who's a guy.
Yes.
And you guys, I just want to go see my friend. You tell your husband, I want to go see my friends. And your friend is just one or two guys. How would your husband, how do you think your husband would take it? And before you answer, how would you think you would feel if it was reversed?
So the reason I'm disagreeing is because we do have that kind of reverse thing. So for me, my friend, he's my brother's best friend. He lived with us. We grew up together, literally lived with us. So he's basically to me a part of my family. So when we go out, if he's having troubles and he wants to talk to somebody, he usually talks with me if he wants a female opinion, or talks to my brother if he wants a male opinion. And to us, he's family. He's in, out of the home, sleeps over. So to me, it is like I can have that kind of a friendship with him without it going somewhere, I guess.
So if a girl was seeking advice from your husband without you involved, how would you feel?
Depending on, again, the relationship they have. Like if they know each other since they were 6 years old or something like that, and they're 30-something years old right now, then I guess it's a relationship that's been there the whole time, right? So if it was going to evolve to something, it would have. But if it's someone they just met and they're like, oh, we're going out, then definitely there's a problem there.
Right.
Right? But again, I think it depends on the situation.
Sure. Okay. Anyone disagree or agree with her?
That might be the exception to the rule because, like, I think that specific person is, while maybe not a blood relative, it's kind of like a relative.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a sibling to her, so that's kind of like an exception to the rule. But yeah, but I think if it's not someone that like you know, known your whole life, and it's just a friend,
Yeah, that's a problem.
you shouldn't just be going out just the two of you alone.
Right. It would be
Not being like anything to be of concern. Right?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be okay with that either with my husband. But again, that's why I kind of said depends on the situation
Yes.
or how long they know that person. Or
Yes, but you wouldn't want him to have a new friend that he just met recently.
Definitely, no, we can go out together with that friend, but not just alone. But again, that's why I said.
Okay.
I guess, yeah, it's the difference between generalities and context specific. Like there could be exceptions to that, but yeah.
Unfortunately, in most situations, if it's not this, like an exception like this, in most situations, when this happens, the two people don't have the same vision or view of what the friendship actually means. And that's a very dangerous position to be in. So I want us to remember at least this part. When I share this part, I share it with like as young age as possible, especially high school. But it's true all the way up. It's true all the way up. Like men are seeking a physical connection while women are seeking an emotional connection. And it's so important that we remember this part. And this is a generality. Okay, I don't know if you guys spoke about this before. So there are indicators of when one should be ready to enter into a relationship. This is my personal indicators. What is my spiritual level? Have I spoken and discussed something with my father confession? What is my age? Right? Someone comes to me and they're a teenager. Like this happens unfortunately often. They come and they're like 15 years old and they say, I want to start dating. This is a very obvious, clear cut. Like I have to explain to them, you're not of the right age. What is my school situation? Have I just started university or am I just ending university? What is my actual maturity? When I want to have fun, what does that mean, right? And what is my financial and work situation? Have I started a career? Am I ready? I'm prepared. And then the overall question that we should ask ourselves is, am I actually ready to be married tomorrow? Like that's kind of the view. The purpose of dating, and I'm not using the word dating or courting, whatever word was often used, is to be married, is to find someone to be married to. Okay. So here's the beginning, at least, of today's topic. Readiness. You're not going to have, or most of us at least, are not going to have a meet cute. Does anyone know what a meet cute is? Anyone heard of this expression, a meet cute? Can you share it? Can you tell us? Do you know? No? Yes? Yeah?
From what I understand, it's usually like derived from romantic comedies where, you just meet somebody at random coffee shop or some other setting and you just spontaneously connect, and from there the relationship buds and
Exactly.
flourish.
Exactly. So you're not going to have this Hollywood style, I'm walking in the school with my books and oops, someone bumps into me, my books fall, we both try to pick it up and oh my, who are you? And then, it's not going to happen. Like as much as we want this to fit into our romantic idea of our marriage, like as a married couple, very often you get the question, how did you meet? Because they're looking for a nice story. Oh, I was, and they give you like, we were walking our dogs and they tripped us over and all of a sudden, boom, who are you? And all of a sudden, this is how we started our relationship. It's not going to happen on its own. You're not going to just be sitting there and all of a sudden, Mr. Right or Mrs. Right is going to come and meet you. It's not going to happen on its own. There is an active part from my side that I have to take. When is the right time to approach someone? So before we were talking about the personal right time. Here I'm talking about the right time when I actually have someone in mind. I have someone in mind that I would like to approach. I want to ask them. If I ask them too early, then I have to ask myself, why am I asking them out? And we're going to get to that the next slide. But sometimes I don't have the courage to ask them out. So I spend 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, and waiting. I never get the courage to ask them out. And in my head, whether this is a guy or a girl, in my head, I start developing this relationship. I'm further along in this imaginary relationship than they are. So when I approach them, I already have this built-up expectation of what this relationship should look like. And for them, this is the first time they hear about it. I didn't know that you were interested in me. So I have to ask myself, when is the right time? Is it too early? Because I don't want it to be too late. Am I ready to be rejected? Am I ready to get a no? And it's important to be ready to get a no because it's very likely that you will. Do we have any mutual friends? Do we have any mutual friends? Like, I want to ask someone out. Do I have a friend that actually knows them? Right? And I'm not saying this because I think you should garner information and try to suss it out whether this is a relationship that's going to work or not. But this is a very big step or a very big part of finding someone. Do we know people who know people? It is not the same story for everyone. Okay. This is what I tell people in confession when they come to me and they talk to me about meeting someone. The first question I always ask them is the person that you're interested in going to lift you up spiritually? And the reason why I asked this question, because this was the question that someone told me, my father confession told me, when I first started dating someone. And I didn't marry that person. Because the first thing they told me was, I don't think that person is going to lift you up spiritually. I'm not saying they're a bad person. I'm not saying that they're never going to make it to their eternal life in heaven, and you are. But what I'm saying is, together, she's not going to lift you, and you might not be able to lift her spiritually. And I think that's one of the most important parts of marriage. Because, Yani, if I were to ask you, does God want you to be married? What do you think the answer would be?
He doesn't care.
Why?
I just think so.
You don't. So he says he doesn't care. Tayyib. What do you guys think? Who else? Does God want you to be married?
I mean, as long as you're happy, that's all we care about.
Okay. As long as you're happy.
I think God wants us to take any route that will lead us to Him, whether alone or with a partner.
Very good. God's ultimate plan for all of us is to end up in heaven. If being single is going to be a stumbling block to my salvation, then marriage is my route to heaven. If marriage is a stumbling block to my salvation, then being single is my route to heaven. This is how we should look at it. Right? So putting this in mind, is the person I'm going to marry going to be a stumbling block for my salvation? Or is this person that I'm going to marry going to lift me up spiritually? That's the question I should be asking. And this is what I mean by when I say, do I actually understand what marriage is? Marriage is a tool that allows me to improve my spiritual life. Am I ready for marriage? I would have rather been single my whole life than to enter into an unhealthy marriage. I'm not telling you this to dissuade you from marriage. I'm telling you this to dissuade you from getting into a bad relationship. I want all of you to find happiness and salvation, and I don't want you to end up in a marriage that you regret and that you hate yourself for. Any questions so far?
Why has this sentence been very common these days, but it wasn't that common back in the day?
Which one?
Like, I'd rather remain single than enter into
I didn't know anyone would say that. And I didn't, actually, when I tell people this, I say, don't tell your parents that I said this.
Disclaimer.
I don't want parents to get upset with me. But it's true. So I don't know. I haven't heard it before. Yes.
What if the person you're interested in, what if there's like an imbalance with the spirituality levels that you both have? Like what if they're at like say a 10 spiritually, but you're at like an 8 or vice versa,
Mm-hmm.
6 or a 2.
Yani, I'm not sure how to. We're all trying to grow spirituality, and I think that when I say, is that person going to lift you up spiritually? I think what I'm trying to say is that person willing to grow to begin with? How much are they actually interested in spending their life with God, compared to you, that is? If both of you, it doesn't matter what level, 8, 10, 6, level of spirituality. But if both of you are interested in growing your relationship with God at the same level, at that level, at the same acceleration, let's say, then you have a good fit.
As long as there's like an overlap.
Any other? Yes,
Sorry, I don't mean to be stuck on this point, but
please.
is it possible for two people to grow spiritually together? Or do they have to have some sort of, well, I guess they should have some sort of foundation individually first, but is it possible if like they're both at a 5, can they come together kind of thing?
What is the purpose of, okay, from the point of view of the Orthodox Church, what is the purpose of marriage? So I'll start off by saying the purpose of marriage in the Catholic Church is procreation, right? You should get married so that you can procreate, and not procreating is a sin. That's not the view in the Orthodox Church. What is the view, do you think, the Orthodox Church of getting married?
To establish a church.
To establish a church, yes. Maybe a different way of saying it. Establish a church, or another way of saying it would be?
Salvation.
Salvation, yes. But through what? Through fellowship. Sorry? Okay. through fellowship, right? I have a friend. When I'm down, because of my fellowship, then I have someone who I can say, like, I'm not feeling well spiritually. Can you help me? Can you encourage me? When she's down, I can notice it and I can help her spiritually. Right? That is the goal of marriage in the Orthodox Church, is fellowship, is to grow in love together and closer to God. Like Abuna Bishoy, I think, was giving the first talk, and I'm sure that he would have spoken that marriage is a union of 3, not a union of 2. Right? So like, if one person is dragging the other, then it doesn't fit. Right? We both need to lift each other up together to get closer towards God.
Kind of to that point, maybe I'm on your thought. If there's different levels spiritually, it's not like one's gonna catch up, isn't it? If everybody's growing together, there's always gonna be like a gap, and isn't that not equally yoked or something? Like, or is that yoke is?
Okay, we're talking a lot of theoretical. Let's be a little practical. Let's say I want to serve, right? And the person I'm interested in likes to have fun. They're not interested in service. Right? So like for me, I want to spend my Friday nights going, or my Sundays teaching Sunday school. And for them, they're not even interested. Right? Yeah, they're at a good spiritual level. They go to church, they have communion, they read the Bible, but they're not interested in actually serving. And not only that, like for them, they want to go and be with their friends on Sunday. Taib, when Sunday after church comes, and I want to go to Sunday school and teach Sunday school, and my wife-to-be wants to go to, I don't know, a cafe every Sunday with her friends. Who is dragging who? Right? If there's no interest for her to join, then one person is dragging the other one spiritually. Okay. I hope I'm not going to get in trouble today, Abuna. The question that we should ask ourselves in either direction: why am I going to ask this person out? So I'm ready now to ask someone out. Why am I actually choosing to ask this person out? And vice versa. Let's say someone is asking me out. Why is this person asking me out? Okay, so there's a lot of wrong reasons. There's a lot of wrong reasons that people might approach the situation. Some people are just impatient, right? I just want to get this over and done with. So I'm just going to ask someone out. That's not the right approach. Or this person looks good. I'm physically attracted to them. Like, imagine a guy is asking a girl out. And the girl realizes, this guy is only asking me out because he's physically attracted to me. Should she enter into a relationship? Some people are unable to be alone. Some people are unable to be alone. They have to ask someone out. They have to be in a relationship. Some people are serial daters. Like, for them, it's just going through, yeah, next. I'll date someone, I get bored, I'll date someone else. I get bored, date someone else. Unfortunately, this is very common in our church. Some people like to be chased. Some people like to chase. They like to, to play the game. Ask her out, show my friends, hey, look at the prize I won, move on. Sometimes there's external pressures. All of my friends are seeing someone. Shouldn't I also enter into a relationship? What do you guys think?
They can't be alone. I think about it that God created Adam and Eve, so there was a purpose for that. Can you elaborate a bit about can't be alone specifically?
Yes. If the fact that maybe you're asking this question, maybe for you, you don't have this problem. But for a lot of people, they just cannot be alone. Like, they don't know how to not be in a relationship. Once they've started a relationship once and it didn't work out, like, they feel like something is missing. Like, there's no one, like, maybe from the girl's point of view, there's no one that's taking me out. All of my friends are with someone. I want someone by my side. I want someone to talk to in the middle of the night. I want attention. Same thing for the guys. All of those can apply for a guy. A guy wants attention from a girl. He wants to go out for, I don't know what, I'm going to call my girlfriend. Can't be alone. He can't do it on his own. He has to have someone with his side. So when I say can't be alone, I don't mean that they want to get married. I'm saying he cannot not be in a relationship.
When I see the can't be alone part, it's also kind of an area where you could have potential hazards, like because they can't be alone, then they might be more likely to tolerate certain behaviors that are like not necessarily good for them, like somebody who might be abusive or things like that, or like wrong mismatch in personalities kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that the social media right now is putting a lot of, they're putting a lot of pressure on both genders. And then we're seeing people who are in their 2000s and they're getting married. And people in the 90s, they're watching them, they're attending their marriage. But there's a lot of pressure, but at the same time, some people are considering the whole, I need to reach my dream and then get in a relationship. And I need to have this job. I need to get this license. I need to do this. But I feel that there's a lot of pressure from the family and from the outside world that, yalla, come on, you gotta do it right now. That's in the whole. I feel that it's not easy because it costs you time, it costs you money, and it costs you overthinking.
There's definitely a right time to approach it, and there's also like a missed opportunity. And then there's definitely a balance to be had. And this is where an appropriate conversation with your father confession comes in. When someone says, I want to get into a relationship, the first question, like if they're in university, first question I ask, how long do you have left before you graduate? Right? Someone who says, I graduated 5 years ago and I've been working, you're a little late to the party in terms of, you could have started this a long time ago if you're only starting now. And someone who says, I just entered university is a little too early. I got a 5-year program. I just started this September. So there is definitely a balance somewhere. Any other comments? Yes.
I'm not sure if it's a question, but the can't be alone part of isn't not wanting to be alone and wanting to have this partnership and fellowship and friendship that you talked about a reason for approaching a relationship? I mean, it's not bad in a way. It should not be the only reason, but it's one of the reasons, right?
That you want fellowship? But you can have fellowship with your friends. You can, yeah, and when I say you can't be alone, I literally mean they have no identity outside of a relationship. They have no identity outside of a relationship. They don't know who they are if they're not with someone. It's actually a very big problem. A person like who is suffering because they're not able to be alone could be for many reasons. They could have abandonment issues, right? So they always feel abandoned. They always feel they need someone there. And I think it's important that all of us learn that we need to be capable of being alone for at least a few hours every day, right? Yani, sometimes you're with someone and like you feel like they have ants in their pants, right? And they have to call someone, they have to do something, they have to text someone, they have to be somehow connected in some kind of unhealthy way. I think that's what's scary.
Forgive me for this question, but I was kind of struggling with understanding something that Osak said. In terms of, for example, the right timing for things, and whether or not someone is ready, and sort of balancing the if being single is sort of your path to salvation, or being married is your path to salvation, sort of reconciling that, and for example, if telling someone that you may be a little bit late to the game, or however, what's that said, forgive me, being sort of in a, for lack of a word, ready place in your life, socioeconomically, etc. So I was kind of struggling to reconcile the two together. I was wondering if I could elaborate on that, if you don't mind.
Everything I've said so far, I mean, I think if we put it in context, has to have balance. Everything has to have balance. Like, for example, if we talk about looks, I should not start a relationship solely on looks, but I need to be attracted to them. So there's a balance, right? So when we talk about timing, it's the same thing. There's a time that's too early to start a relationship, and there's people who are, out of fear, are unable to start a relationship, so they keep waiting and waiting and waiting. They're not late, but they could have started the process if they wanted earlier. So there's definitely a balance to be had.
So is it possible to, I guess, not start and have that be still, for lack of a better word, healthy, in the sense that it's maybe you're not ready for some other reason, or even if you are ready for all the other reasons.
I think you need to ask yourself why. I think you need to ask yourself why. If you're not ready, you're not ready, right? But the question of why has to be answered. Am I not ready because I'm afraid, or not? I am not ready because I'm actually not ready.
Thank you.
Okay, parents. Parents play a very big role in dating. So you introduce your parents, this guy or this person is interested in you, and you tell your mom or your dad. Question number 1, Minda. منين عيلة في مصر. Right? Do we know them? Not of them? What kind of job does he have? This is their concern. This is like half of the parents. This is their concern. Who are they? Do we know them? Have we known them for a long time? What kind of job does he do? What kind of job does his dad do? What kind of job does his mom do? Like, this is super common. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I just want us to be aware. There's pressure. Yani, if it hasn't happened to you, it's happened to the person sitting next to you. How many times has a parent gone to their child and said, what about this guy over here? Yani, what's wrong with him? Meloda. Yani, مش ده كويس. Huh? Doctoro. You know, right? You don't hear that? Oh, or teta. Or they want to introduce someone to you, right? I have a friend. I know them very well. We're very good friends. He has a son. Let me introduce you to his son or his daughter or their daughter. The worst, the most, the most difficult parents are the ones that surprise you. You come home from work, from school, and you find this guy. Oh, who are you? Da, hati shaya mama. Right? Go get the tea. Go prepare the tea so we can sit and have a conversation. This is the most difficult. So I'm going to ask you, are the opinions of your parents important? Dangerous question, I know. Is the opinion of your parents important or not?
I think there's a very big difference between is their opinion important or is their opinion the final word.
Mm-hmm.
Those two, I think, parents specifically have a hard time separating, in my opinion. I think their opinion is definitely important. I would very much love the input between my parents because they can definitely see things with a fresher eye than I can. But at the end of the day, I'm the person spending the rest of my life with this person. So I think those two are very separate things.
Okay, very good.
To add on to that, I would just say that, at least for me personally, I think that the blessing is very important because if you don't have the parents' blessing, then that could raise future issues in your relationship between both your parents and yourself, as well as your partner and yourself, which creates further fraction in raising kids, for example, or making any sort of decision in your life. So you have to start off with a good base on both sides, and that's why the blessing is important. But you also have to make sure that their opinion is not changing your priorities in the relationship that you're seeking as well.
Very good. Very good.
Both of what Chris said absolutely are important, and just I guess also to give a different perspective, one important, if not sort of central focus, but a peripheral view to have is, do our parents get along? It's an important consideration, not a focal point, but it's still something to consider, because it is looking to the future and how will we get along at various events, different situations, etc. And so if you're already noticing tension from the get-go, it may not be a red flag per se, but it's something to consider. That's, I think, maybe the best way to qualify it.
Yes.
I believe that their opinion is important because you're not the only one who's going to live with a partner. Your family is going to live with a partner.
Yes.
Next to what, your family knows what's your needs. So they would have considered that would this person fulfill your needs or not? Because they have this third eye that can tell, would this person help you to achieve your goals or not? Because they've been living with you for all of these years. So they know what you're looking for. Maybe they don't know exactly, but they have their own perspective. So I mean, it is important to consider their opinion, because they know you more than your partner know. Maybe they know you more than yourself.
Okay, very good. Yes.
So I think it comes to the point where one of the two options. So if our parents are, with all the respect of all parents, if the parents are super understanding, super cute, perfect. They are supporting, great. If the parents are super acute, then it's something else. So I think they need to, not take it like personally and look at the overall picture. And if needed, one of the partners need to, reevaluate it with their parents first. like put like a development plan or whatever, take them to a course, like whatever, like something that can help them to that.
And so I think that this question is extremely difficult to answer because it's not a yes or no answer. So this question it depends on who your parents are to begin with, right? What are their values versus your values? What are you looking for in a relationship versus what are they looking for in a relationship? So I'll give you some examples, and these are extremes, right? So, for example, like I know, unfortunately, of a person who was pressured by their parents that they were only allowed to marry a doctor. The girl herself was. I know it's I know it's funny as we say it, but this is a terrible story. So. Maybe. The girl herself was not a doctor, but her mom was a doctor, and she insisted that she will not bless any marriage unless the man was a doctor. Finally, a doctor asked her out. She married him. The man was very abusive to her. But in their mind, he's a doctor. راجل كويس دكتور. Right. So they ended up having a divorce, and they ended up separating. And this is what I was saying before of I'd rather be single than enter into an unhealthy relationship. So I have to be very careful, right? I want the blessing of my parents, and the best way I can say is like an indicator. So if you go to the border, for example, right, and you want to enter into a country, they're asking you a bunch of questions, not because of the answers, but because they're looking for indicators. Like, is this person sweaty? Is this person stressed? Is this person lying to me? Like, they're trying to figure out, to suss you out. Is this person safe? And they're doing so by asking you questions, looking at your passport, seeing your body language. And you might do one thing wrong, right? But they're looking for an overall indicators. Overall, this person is okay. So overall, I'm looking at my parents. And I somehow have to fit my relationship with them to the relationship that I'm looking to have with this person, right? So if their only priority is his job, I'm going to try to ignore that part. I want their overall blessing. I want them to be part of it. They're going to be part of my family. Like, I'm going to marry his family and he's going to marry my family. So I want an interaction, a healthy interaction. So I have to be very careful on how I approach this. And sometimes having a father confession. So I'll tell you another positive story. So a girl was introduced, a guy was introduced to this girl. They wanted to start a courtship. And the girl's father said, no, he's not good enough for you. So she was talking to her father confession. She's like, I want to start this relationship. And the father confession said, he's the right guy for you. I personally wouldn't do this. This was a very brave priest. And he went and took his daughter to her father and said, the man that asked her out is the right man for your daughter. And the father listened, and it was an extremely, extremely blessed marriage. Extremely blessed. Not because he obeyed. Very likely, yes, it was due to that. But more importantly, that the father had a very set, system of who my daughter is going to marry. And he was not able to understand or see outside that image. So the father confession was able to, as another person, able to enter into the situation and say, look, I know that you have a fixed mindset of what a man should be for your daughter, but there's other options that work very well. And he was right. Again, I wouldn't do this. I don't know about Butros.
I want to put a disclaimer, Ibuna, so that they do not expect this is going to happen.
I agree with that.
We give guidance, ultimately it's your choice.
Okay, yes.
Sorry, Ibuna.
Yes.
I wanted to ask, do you have any recommendations?
No, I don't have any recommendations.
What do you say, Abuna? If someone, for example, doesn't have, for whatever reason, both their parents or one of their parents or is in that kind of situation, do you suggest that they lean more on the guidance of their father of confession, as well as their extended sort of support, close relatives, loved ones, etc.?
Yes. Yes, you can talk to your father confession. You can ask your father confession who else, like if there's a close member of your family that you can trust, who has the same way of thinking as you do, the same culture. Yes, there's yani, again, this is a very exceptional circumstance, but yes, there are other ways of going about this.
I think you guys have good parents.
Pardon me?
I think you guys have good parents.
No, thank God. Okay, so when I'm asking someone out, what am I actually asking? I'm not asking someone to go on a date, right? I'm not in high school. I'm not asking to go study and go on a date. I'm not going to ask them for a proposal. Like, this is not like I'm gonna approach someone and I'm not looking to get a firm commitment of a relationship. It's not the be end and like what you say now, forever hold your peace because that's it. You're deciding now the rest of your life. No. This is a request to find out if there's interest. If there is interest. To see if there's a possibility. Like, I don't know how many disclaimers we can put in one sentence. It's a request to find out if there's interest, to see if there's a possibility. All I want to do is approach someone and say, hey, I don't know, but maybe there's something. Would you like to explore? No, I don't want to explore. Yes, I do want to explore. That's it. When we can explore and we can find there's nothing there. We can explore and find that there's something there, right? But I'm not asking them to marry me. I'm not asking them to have some kind of official status. I'm just looking to see if someone is willing to explore the possibility with me. That's really important. How do I ask? Okay, this is the actual crux. How do I ask? How do I actually do it? Don't be suspicious. Don't be weird about it. If you want to do something, if you want something you've never had, you must do something you've never done. Right? So you need to build up the muster and the courage and just do it. Number one, be very clear. Don't be ambiguous. Be clear. Give an easy way out. This is really important, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Again, we're asking to seek together if there's an option, if there's a possibility. I'm asking a question, right? And I'll say why I'm saying this, because in the next slide, I'll tell you what not to do. And I want to give them space, and I want to give myself space, so that either one of us can walk away. What I shouldn't do before I take any questions. Don't come off very strong. Don't push yourself onto someone. Don't start stating facts and reasons. We should go out because I know your friends and you know my friends and our parents are good friends and like I have already a house and a car. No, don't do that. Don't state facts. Don't state your reasons. Don't ask Abuna, hey Abuna, could you ask this person to see if they're willing to go out with me? Don't ask your friend to do it either. Don't start an ambiguous relationship, usually involving texting. Be clear. Be clear. And I'll give you an example of that. Don't make a big event, right? Don't ask someone out for the first time and it's under some kind of fireworks, under a bridge with a river, and that's crazy pressure, right? Wrong way to approach it. Don't feel the need to answer someone immediately. Don't string people along. Don't say yes if you mean no because you want to hurt their feelings. You don't want to hurt their feelings. And don't announce to everyone they said yes. Don't make a big deal about it and tell everyone, I asked her out, she said yes, he asked me out, I said yes, and now we're a couple, and everyone should know, let me change my relationship status. Maybe I can have a chastity ring on my other hand. Slow down. Okay, any questions? Yes.
So, what do you say if it's like the girl interested? Is she also supposed to be?
I was waiting for someone to ask this question. I'm trying to get to the next slide. So, I want to tell you the right thing to do, but I don't want to stop you. The ideal thing is if the man does it. The man should do it. I'm talking to every male in the room. Yes, you are the one who should be approaching the woman. Right? Now, however, there are some men who are a bit shy, and sometimes those are the better ones, and they need a little bit of encouragement. So, again, you're not asking them for a proposal, you're not asking them to be in a serious, committed relationship. You're just piquing interest, let's say. So I'm not going to say it's wrong for a girl to go through this process. However, I would highly encourage the men to do it.
I guess the problem is they don't understand.
Who doesn't understand?
If the girl approaches and they don't understand the same mindset,
Yes,
they would
okay.
be attacked, or I don't know.
Yes.
how
This
they
is
could take
okay.
it.
This is very true. So let me just clear out. Let's be honest with everyone. Can we stop the recording?
I'm gonna cut it out.
Okay, I'm gonna share something with you. I share this with people who confess to me, especially the girls. Men are very dumb. Okay, it doesn't matter what kind of sign you give them. Like, I know that in your mind you are being very clear that you're interested, and you are throwing signs, as they say, throwing out signals. They're not catching them. Like, let's be honest, they don't. And if they catch them, they don't know what to do with them. Like, that's just how the man is, unfortunately. Huh? That's why it's important. It's true. That's why it's important to be clear. So, for example, there was a couple they were in a relationship. They were in a relationship, but the girl doesn't know that she's in a relationship. What does that mean? What does that even mean? So she's like, I have a friend, and we're texting, and we're talking, and I'm like, it sounds to me like you're in a relationship. It's like, yes, but he hasn't asked me out. So then I told her, what you need to do is you need to be clear. You need to go to him and say, I don't know what's happening. Either we're looking, again, back to what I was saying, either we're looking to seek together if this is something we're interested in, or we're not. And we stop texting, we stop discussing, we stop going out. She was very stressed. She did it. And she's like, yes. She told me, for him, it was very obvious. It was not. To her, she didn't know she was in a relationship from her point of view. So it made things very clear. If you are in a relationship like this, when I say in a relationship, if you are in a friendship where you are communicating with a person from the opposite gender, it means one of two things. It means that you might be seeking together, but it's not clear, or both of you are wasting your time. So either one of you needs to make it clear. This happens so often, and it really bothers me, because I tell them, why are you wasting this person's time? Either you're clear that you want to enter into, again, not a relation, you're not getting married. You're just entering into this idea that, would you like to seek with me if this is the right thing to do or not? Or you cut it out. You stop texting, you stop talking, you stop seeing each other. What's the point?
Does that mean that a man and a woman cannot be
Friends? This is slide number 2. Men and women cannot be friends. I told you, stop the recording. It depends. We talked about this. It depends what you mean by friends. Friends in a group, sure. Don't text someone in the middle of the night and say she's just my friend. Don't text me and say, how was your day? That's ambiguous. Someone is wasting someone else's time. I know what I'm saying hurts, but it's true. Does anyone disagree with me? Be honest, yes.
Yeah, I think that I'd have to disagree because I also think that if there's like an extended period that you've been friends for a long time in a group setting, for example, and then eventually the group breaks apart but you're still friends, it doesn't mean that you're not able to be friends just because it's the two of you now.
What I'm saying is that in your mind, you're just friends. I don't know about his mind.
So what if it's clear between the two?
It's unhealthy.
It's unhealthy to have friends of the opposite gender.
Close friends, yes. I'm also being honest.
So why is it actually unhealthy?
It's unhealthy to be friends with someone from the opposite sex because once you get married, what are you going to do with this person? If you're not married to that person, what are you going to do with them? Sorry? No? Look, you want to try? You want to try? Go and try. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm trying to tell you through experience, you're headed down a dangerous path.
So
You could try to. You could. Yes.
So, okay, you said what happens if you don't marry them? Okay, well, you don't marry them, you marry somebody else, and they marry somebody else.
And how do your spouses feel about your friendship?
Okay, there's a third couple in the situation, and everybody's friends. Is that okay?
Like so you're going to bed at 11 o'clock at night.
No.
No.
Nobody's texting. If you're married, you should not be texting another person or.
So why is it okay now?
No, but you said not to be friends, not to text, right? You can be friends and not text.
Look, you have to be careful on how you define the word friends. You have to be careful on how you define the word friends.
Yeah.
You're friends in a group. You're friends in this room. You go out in a group and have dinner. I know you have an exception.
No, but boundaries too, right?
Pardon me?
That's why you also put boundaries.
Sure.
Well, like for example, you can't text me after X amount of like you can't text me after 7 or whatever because I'm with my family. This is my family time, or you can't text me this late because we don't have that kind of friendship. So I think boundaries also take place.
Sure.
I was going to share. I think even though there's going to be some potential from some relationship between like opposite genders and their friends, and if we said this clearly right now, maybe it's going to stop the momentum. Maybe it's going to stop that potential. And this is what I'm afraid of. Because it's not like like not everybody can be like you said, Abuna, I mean, not everybody can be super clear, super straightforward. Sometimes it takes time. You know, like in order for someone to be figuring out something, in order, you know, to be readily as you mentioned, so it takes time. So if it's like معايا ولا مش معايا ولا عليا لا يعني I think it's sometimes it can discourage a lot of people from even though they continue.
I think you have to be, again, I'll just say it like this. I think you have to be very careful of what a relationship with someone else looks like. That you have no intention of getting married to. I think you have to be very careful because even though it's clear in your mind, it might not be clear in their mind. And sometimes they say something just to appease you, but it doesn't mean they're saying what they actually feel.
I agree with you.
Thank you.
I actually know a story where two people were in that scenario and they made it clear from the beginning that that's the extent of the relationship. And they were talking for a while, and I think 3 or 4 months down the road, I don't want to say if it was the guy or the girl, but someone asked a question, do you think this could ever evolve into something else? And the other person, well, he said they were flustered because they thought they made it clear at one point. But the other person, they just hoped that with time that would change.
That's
Obviously, they were let down, and now they're nowhere on the friendship spectrum. But it happened, and it does happen, and it will continue to happen unless it's a clear.
Yes, I think you have to be very careful. Any questions about the don't?
I guess it's not really about the don't. It's more about the being okay to hear the no or to be rejected.
This next slide.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of how, especially for the guys, how to approach this question and what is the healthy way to approach it. So again, I'll repeat. You want to approach someone, giving them the option of out. Okay, and why am I saying that? We'll do the rejection now. If I can get to it. No. Okay. So rejection should not be seen as a negative, right? Rejection should not be seen as something negative. Usually, most of the time, rejection has nothing to do with you. Although in our minds, it has everything to do with me. So, for example, a girl is seeing a guy. They haven't told anyone. Their parents know, but they haven't told their friends. And then another guy sees this girl and he's interested in her. So what does he do? He musters up the courage to go and ask her out. I'm interested in you. And he gets a no. She doesn't want to tell him why. She doesn't want other people to know that she's in a relationship. So he feels, he doesn't know this. He feels she's rejecting him. And in his mind, all he's doing is going over the scenario. That maybe if I would have asked like this, if I would have done that, if I would have looked different, if it would be someone else, right? So they take it very personally. When in fact, the rejection has nothing to do with them whatsoever. She's already in a committed relationship with someone else. The two might be focused on completely different things, right? So one person knows that this person is not right for me because he's asking me out for my looks, right? Or he's only interested in me because my family has wealth. Whatever the reason is. Point is, it has nothing to do with them. It might not be the right time for the person. It's not the right time for me. So someone approaches me and asks me out, I'm going to say no. Nothing to do with who asked me out. I'm not ready. And the person who's rejecting should be very delicate and very compassionate on how to say, I don't think this is appropriate. I don't think I'm ready. I don't think whatever. What do you guys think? You were going to say something about rejection.
No, I just wanted you to elaborate on it because I think there's a lot of fear of being rejected. That's why let's just not approach, because what could the other person think of me, or how would they take it if I say no, or things like that, and I just wasn't sure how to address it.
Correct. Yeah.
That's more just a comment. I like the picture of LeBron James.
Yes, yes.
And, maybe you can explain it to the girls, but why you chose it.
I'm sure the girls know what it is.
Just to go back again to the be clear when we say no, you need to give a reason. Like maybe like it's not, I'm not like ready for the relationship now, or maybe I'm like something to give like a feedback instead of just rejection.
So what I meant by be clear was when the person asking. You don't necessarily have to be clear. You should be clear in your answer. No. The why part, you don't have to be clear. You're not accountable to the other person, right? So I'm not interested. That's clear. Why? I can give whatever reason. Doesn't matter. If I even want to give a reason.
Just curious, Luna, if the focusing on different things, is it possible that that may not necessarily be clear until a ways into things? And I guess could you elaborate on how to approach or that discussion or topic? Is it different from the initial versus a little bit into it, if those kind of things become clear?
Yani, if, for example, someone said no, and after, 6 months, the situation has changed, they should not wait for the person to reapproach them. They might be interested in going back to the person and saying, I said no for this reason, but now this is the situation. That's a possibility. I don't know how likely that is gonna happen,
And I guess, sorry, I was kind of focusing on just some of the examples that gave, like, it's clear they're only
Interested in my looks.
because my looks, or because they know my family is wealthy, or things like that. Something like that may not necessarily be apparent right off the bat. So,
Oh, what to do if you said yes, Yani?
for example,
That's the next slide.
oh, okay.
Abuna.
Could you give us example of delicate, compassionate rejection?
From my point of view, being clear is very compassionate. That's I think telling someone I'll think about it, maybe that's very painful actually. I think being clear is like a band-aid. You rip it off, it hurts, but it doesn't feel pain for a long time.
What if the girl is not ready, or did not expect it, or maybe she's kind of surprised or shocked? Because some people are able to articulate rejection on the spot. Some people might be shocked. So would it be okay to say, you know what, this is something that came as a surprise, let me think about it and get back to you? And then maybe the key point would be like within a day, 24 hours, kind of there will be kind of a response back to the person. You know what, I thought about it and I think that's gonna work.
Very
or
true.
I thought about it, that's not gonna work.
Yes, you have every right not to answer on the spot. As Abuna said, you are allowed to take your time and think about it, whether that's 1, 2, 3 days a week, as long as you're clear and you say to the other person, I need some time to think about it, give me a week. And you actually go back after a week and not force the other person to come back to you again for a second time. That's very compassionate. Yes, and you're allowed to take time. You are allowed to take time. You are not forced to do anything.
So I've heard.
Sorry, Abuna, does that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes,
I've heard that the best marriages start off with friendships, because ultimately you want to marry your best friend. To me, it kind of seems like a cliche, to be honest, what everybody says. But like, when you're getting into this process, is there a certain like speed you should be going at initially? Should you say, hey, no expectations, whatever? Should you try to be friends first, or like that's where I'm kind of confused. Is like the courtship thing. It seems like sometimes it'll go too quickly, too fast, or too quickly, like too soon, and you'll be talking about things that are way down the line.
So the idea of being friends first, the friendship starts here. The friendship starts at this question. Would you like to explore? This is where you begin to build a friendship. You don't have to know the other person beforehand. You shouldn't go in cold. Like when I say cold, I mean like someone walks in the room, you spend 10 minutes thinking about it, and then you ask them out. That's rough, right? That's too cold, right? You got to think about it. You got to understand who they are, and you got to go through the list of questions and see like, is this person going to lift me up spiritually? Are they the right person for me? And you kind of go through a list of questions, and maybe after some time, you speak to your father confession, and then you can approach the person, right? So you don't have to know them beforehand, but you have to once you've decided that this might be a possibility, you have to spend some time with yourself to get to know them, not know them, but know who they are, ask about them, talk to your father confession, and then ask the question where you begin the friendship. You marry your best friend, but you find out you usually start the friendship from this point.
On top of that, because like it's something that's always confusing me. They say the talking phase. Like to me, it's always been if I'm focused on one person, I can only focus on one person kind of thing. But there are some that I can focus on a bunch, you know? And they say you have to kind of extend that period, really find out, and then jump in. So like, what's the church's view on that?
This is a personal. Every person has a different answer. This is about your personal situation. Where are you in life, for example? Where are they in their life, right? And this is where you get to know the person and see, am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? And if you have an open dialogue with the other person, and I'm sure Abuna John will talk about this properly next week, if you have an open dialogue, you are going through this process together.
From what I understood from his initial question is, for example, asking questions about what you're expecting out of this relationship too soon. That's how I understood that. Like,
Yeah, like jumping in essentially.
right, because at that point, like, you're laying out their expectations to somebody who might not, like, it might be too soon to start discussing those.
Like you mean you've asked them out, or someone's asked you out, and then after a week they're talking about the wedding date.
Not exactly, but more so like, what do you envision for your future? Oh, like 2 kids or 3 kids, and I wanna this.
I
and
think
that.
I think you'd be surprised. Like I don't know if other people who are married, but I think you'd be surprised on, yani, like this is not a contract. So if you ask someone, how many kids do you want, you can ask in jest. Like it's not like a bad thing to have that conversation. It doesn't mean like, oh, you said 5 before we got married and now we only have 2 and you don't want any more or something. The contract is void. It doesn't work like that.
I think it's more so towards that initial idea of like, being too much into it in your head, like getting too ahead
Yes.
in your head about like the relationship, envisioning that step way too early, way too soon.
Yes.
What I got.
Yes, and that's very unhealthy. That happens very often. It's very unhealthy. That's why if you are interested in someone, you go through the proper steps of finding out if you're going to ask them or not, and then you actually do it, right? You don't waste time thinking about it for 6 months or a year, because in your mind the relationship continues, right? And you've answered these questions, and everything for them is like it just happened now. So I agree with that.
Going back to the rejection, so you said to prepare yourself for possibly a no. What is, the appropriate response in that situation from you?
I'm not sure how to answer this. I think if you ask my wife, she'll say I'm a robot. So, like for me, if someone is not interested in me, then okay, like I'm done. Like my emotions have stopped.
Maybe
So
say thank you and walk away.
maybe Abuna can enlighten us on what you do. Like I don't personally I am unable to get emotionally invested in someone who's not interested in me, but that's just me, and I know that a lot of people are not like that. What do you think, Abuna?
Actually, in my mind, another question, or maybe kind of a clarification between knowing to initiate versus knowing after the initiation. How would I know? Like how would I know a person is gonna lift me up spiritually? What's the context? So how would I know them? Because sometimes the context might not be always clear if this person gonna help lift me up so that I would initiate. So do I have to be sure that, and how do I be sure about if the person is gonna lift me up spiritually before I initiate, or this is something that I could wait to know later after I initiate? So kind of, it seems to me like there is a phase to know the person before initiation and a phase to know the person after initiation. What's the context and how to go about before the initiation, so that at least to make proper assessment.
Yeah, like in engineering, you have the bidding phase, and this is the bidding phase where you do a very simple exploratory, investigation. You're not going to find everything out until you actually dig, right? So you can ask around. You can ask your father confession. If they know, they can maybe ask her father confession or his father confession, which I'm a bit iffy about, but it happens. You can ask if you have mutual friends. You can notice them and go out with them in a group. That's usually like the best way. You're going out in a group. People in a group tend to be themselves, right? So you see who they are in a group. You like to go to tasbaha. Do they go to tasbaha? Right? You like to do sports. Are they going out on group sport events, outings? Things like that. But you were asking about rejection. Yani, I'm not sure if we've answered the question, but generally speaking, rejection is something that we should be ready to accept. Repeat your question for me, please, so that I can answer it properly.
I mean, I guess what should prepare yourself to get a no, but she should prepare yourself on what you're gonna do if you do get a no. and what should you do?
Yes. And this is where spending too much time before asking makes a very big difference. If you spend too much time, you will have a bigger emotional cliff, right? And that's why it's important that if you're actually interested in starting something, to ask at the right time. So not too early, but not wait too long. Because yes, you're going to definitely have feelings. You're going to have an emotional response that you're not going to like. No one likes to get rejected. So you will have a feeling associated with that. It could be anger, it could be sadness, it could be both. But yes, you should expect that that's going to happen, but you will get over it.
But in the moment, what should you do?
Yani, you should, yes, Abuna.
I think you said, Abuna, something that is very nice, is to give a way out. So while asking, give a way out. And as Abuna mentioned, there is no easy rejection. But I think what Abuna mentioned, two things that really I think could be helpful is, number one is give a way out. So I'm giving the way out, and I should be expecting maybe yes, maybe no, and maybe not to take it personal, because there are many things, many variables that I'm probably not aware about. Maybe the person has reasons that they do not want to share with me, and it has nothing to do with me. So I try to mentally kind of after the shock, because there might be a shock, each person might be different, but after the shock is to try mentally to go through the reasons that could validate it's okay that the person said no. Maybe I don't know about their circumstances. Maybe they are not ready. Maybe they could be in a relationship that they do not want to disclose. Maybe they are not ready in this aspect, in that aspect, in that aspect. So kind of the more that I give excuses for the person, hopefully I would not take it in a person, because as Abuna mentioned, I think we should not take it as a person. It's not personal. Not sure if this.
We're gonna go, yeah.
When I'm just trying to visualize, like, when you said, like, from this stage, like, friendship begins. So, learning how to play with it. الفكرة كلها إنه.
Yes, you could be friends beforehand, yes. But I think I was answering the question. The question was more like, do we need to be friends before I even ask them out? No, you don't need to be friends. The true friendship is because what marriage really is, in terms of friendship, that is two people being willingly vulnerable to each other. And that cannot start beforehand. That cannot start before this question. You can't, and as a friend, yes, there are some opportunity for you to be vulnerable. You might share, losses and negative situations because you need the compassion. But once you enter into this part of the relationship, this is where you begin to build on that further and further. This is where true vulnerability begins. There was a question here, and then.
More of a comment, Abuna. You started talking about salvation, and that marriage is one of the ways to salvation. And if our spiritual life is not just a collection of cliches, but a real lived experience with God, then even rejection should be taken in the context of everything in my life is part of God's plan for my life, and I should believe in this, and I should even at a point thank God for the rejection, because I believe that if I put my life in His hands, then He is choosing. So if this is part of my faith as a Christian, yes, to understand that the rejection is not just my destiny in the hand of someone else. Of course there is shock, and of course there are feelings, but there is also thanksgiving for God's intervention in something that might not work for my life.
Yes, very well put. Thank you.
Well, the only thing about like asking someone just based on the initial like seeing them, it just seems like it's more about the looks. If there is no friendship at all to know the person, and it also seems like there is a necessary stage at which you get to know the person on a deeper level and to know what they think about like real issues and real things. So if it's just based on looks and you start asking people out based on that, I don't think that's actually deep enough.
Agreed with you. So we've covered that earlier. And one of the reasons why I should consider, why am I asking this person out? We talked about looks, and we also, one thing I'll also add to that is, even if you make that mistake, and you are truly seeking to answer the question, is this right for us? Then that question will be answered in this phase. You might start a relationship solely based on looks, but if we go to the next slide, we talk about getting out of the relationship.
So in that initial though, you have the rose-colored glasses, so you get that like dopamine hit. Like I once saw someone had wrote, they said, does love exist or is it just people chasing the dopamine hits? And I 100% agree with that. Like
that's because
love does exist, but when you have the rose-colored glasses on, you can't see anything. It's just, oh, this person's great in every way.
Yeah, that's because we use the word love incorrectly. We use the word love as an emotion. We use the word love as an emotion. God did not love us emotionally. God loves us as a verb, action. God's love for us was manifested by Him giving His life. And I need to look at Christ as a man entering into a relationship. I need to play that role. I am playing the role of Christ in the relationship, and I'm telling my wife, I am going to give you my life. I'm not looking for an emotional response in our relationship, right? Because one day we can get upset at each other, but we're still married. I don't leave my wife because I have a fight with her or we disagree who took out the trash or who should take out the trash that day. That's emotional. That's dopamine. Because we look at love as an emotion, not as a verb.
But how do you then, like, that's what I'm trying to say is during that initial phase, that's what you're seeing, right?
So again, we're talking about when you're entering into this phase, you're not dating someone. Like I want you to not look at it like that. You're looking to answer the question, are you and I exploring together the possibility of marriage? Meaning, and I have to understand what the meaning of marriage is. Meaning sacrifice, meaning that I'm going to lift you up spiritually and you're going to lift me up spiritually. Like there isn't, like, are you going to satisfy my needs and I'm going to satisfy your needs? That's not love, right? That's lust. So that's the difference, is that we sometimes look to answer the wrong question. The world tells us, this goes back to the problem of soulmate. Do I have a soulmate? The world tells us there's someone out there who's going to complete you and fulfill all your dreams. And you're going to do the same thing for them. That's a lie. That's not what the church says at all. The church is saying marriage, when we wear the crowns, what are the crowns for? Does anyone know? Martyrdom. I'm giving my life to the other person, and they're giving their life to me. And we're giving our lives to Christ. This is work. This is a verb. This is not emotions. You're not two bunnies running up and down a hill. Okay, I don't know who raised their hand first. Go ahead.
What I'm kind of sensing in a lot of the discussion, I think it's really underscoring the importance of the first topic we had in the series, is the importance of being self-aware, not only with knowing who you are, your identity, but the reasons those are important, identifying what your goals are, what you're looking to get out of this type of going down this or pursuing this path rather. Is it something that you're just chasing as we've heard, or are you emotionally intelligent enough to be able to, for example, in the context of the rejection question earlier, are you able to be at terms with or come to terms with it's not God's will for me, or just as I think Mike said last week, if it's His will, then it'll happen. And letting go enough to be able to realize that you can take all the steps and there is still that third person involved in this relationship in blessing the union and the path to get there as well. So I think that's an important perspective to have is, am I mature enough, or maybe not mature enough, sorry, am I ready enough and self-aware enough to be able to handle this and be able to gauge also how best to pace the relationship as well.
Yes.
And approach it. I think in the earlier discussion of the questions that were asked on this side of the room, from what I gathered, I think it was kind of how like the rest of the world sees talking about marriage and kids and all of those things as a red flag in sort of the initial phases of a relationship. How does the church sort of view, how best to approach or navigate those topics, getting to know a person and their goals, their expectations, without scaring them off as the rest of the world sees those important
Yes.
things. So maybe if Lisa could shed some light on that, maybe that would best inform the discussion.
You know, the way that the church sees marriage is very different, and I think that's important. Yani, when we talk about scaring off, if we're both entering the relationship, understanding that marriage is a sacrifice. I'm here to sacrifice, and you are here to sacrifice, right? I'm not here to receive. I'm here to give, and that happens from both sides. Which is the complete opposite of what the world tells us.
So when he said that a man and a woman cannot be friends.
I don't think you're gonna make him change his opinion.
No, I agree actually. It's a little bit hard, yani. It's a little bit hard to be fair friends with, yani, it's a little bit hard. Because if you really want to start a relationship and you're not pretty sure, and you have this anonymity.
It depends.
It's not like we're in the 1980 or
Sure. So if you're not sure, you need to understand yourself and figure out why are you not sure. Am I not sure because I'm insecure? Do I have a fear of rejection? Am I worried about finances? That question is very personal.
I think he means
I'm
he's
not
not
sure
about
because
the
I
other
don't know
person.
what's her point of view.
Oh, I mean, do you know the famous Wayne Gretzky quote? Right? You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. You take your shot. If she says no, that's it. You move on. You want to for sure get a no? Don't ask her.
I think he's trying to say how would you know if this is the right person to ask? Okay, how much time should I invest before I take the step and ask you something? I think that's he's trying. I think that's what he's trying to say.
Exactly.
This is a discussion between you and your father confession. So it's different for each person, right? It's going through that list that we showed here. You know, why am I asking this person out? Right? Am I asking this person out for her? Is because I can't be alone? Her looks? I can't stop. I like to chase. I have all my friends. If I ask these questions to myself, if I'm spiritually ready and I'm at the right age and I'm done school and I'm mature and I'm ready financially, one of those things is missing. That's why you don't feel ready. So if you pinpoint what those things are, then you can deal with it. If you just say I'm not ready, you won't be ready forever. Yes.
Okay, so I want to come back to a point that was brought earlier about like jumping the gun on some of the questions and getting some information. Wouldn't it be better, like in the first few weeks, to get an outline of main things, like how we're gonna end money, how to end family, how many kids, how we're gonna do try to invest in private schools versus Catholic or public schools and stuff like this ahead of time before we get like very emotionally invested and then maybe accept something I know I'm not going to be happy with during marriage because I spend a lot of time.
100%, and that's in the
better just get it out of the way.
But this is the next phase. So this phase is the phase before that. This is how do I ask someone out? How do I start this process? Abuna John will talk about next week. Will talk about this phase.
to make sure to keep you coming.
Yeah.
A very small point. Something that was discussed a few weeks prior. A reminder, like sometimes there are deeper roots to why you may be, I don't want to say obsessing over something, but overthinking things or thinking too much about something. And sometimes it may, be best to seek the help of a third party to help you sort of reason those things out.
So I would agree with you, but generally speaking, a lot of friends are bad options.
Like a professional.
Yeah, you want to go to a professional, sure. You want to go to an older servant that you trust, sure. A priest, sure. Quoting to your friends usually is a good source of bad advice.
I think that's a very interesting thing for you to say because you also heavily emphasize the importance of asking around about the person. So how is it that you can trust other people's opinions, but you can't trust your friend's opinion?
So I'm not asking around, is this person right for me? I'm asking around like, is she seeing someone? Right? I don't want to embarrass her, right? Who is she? I can ask someone, do you know her? Who is she? Oh, she's visiting from out of town. She's whatever. She's going to university. She's graduate. I just know basic stuff. When I can tell, okay, for a guy, how does he know he's serious about a girl? Is when he doesn't care at all what his friends think. When a guy really cares about what his friends think, he's not serious about the girl. He's serious about impressing his friends, right? So, like, if a guy is willing to ask a girl out, he knows that he's right for her. For him, it doesn't matter what his friends say, right? That's what we normally see. His friends can tell him, you could do better. Maybe he can, right? But he's actually serious about this relationship. A friend who is going out and saying, look what I got, look at my girl, look at that, that's not a person serious about a relationship. That's a person serious about his appearance in front of others. Okay, so I'm going to go over this slide. Abuna will next week we'll talk more about this, but the reason I'm bringing this up is because if we have this in the back of our mind when we're being asked the question or when we're asking the question, it helps. So it helps us when we want to say yes or no to know that in the next phase, we're going to be honest. We're going to give ourselves to each other. We're going to share, not physically or heavily emotionally, because we always want to be ready to come out. And I know that sounds very pessimistic, okay? But I put here the word Costco. Do you know why I wrote Costco? Why?
Sample?
A sample? No, that's not why. Not at all. No. So Costco, return. Very good. You walk into Costco, you want to buy the chicken from the back that's only $10, and you come out with a $400 coffee machine. Because in your head, you say to yourself, if I don't like this machine, I can just return it. Costco will take anything back, right? And that's psychologically really works. It's really worked for Costco.
Extended warranty on the TV.
Right. And it really works for us too, right? So if we're honest and we're ready to come out, like, I'm not pressured into this relationship. Like, I want to be honest. I want to feel like this is the right thing to do, right? And I'm honest, and if it doesn't work out, you know what? It doesn't work out. But if it works out, it works out. So you're looking to seek and find the right person. You're not looking to make a deal. You're not working to complete the task, right? You're looking for the right person. And oftentimes, unfortunately, it happens, and this is the best time to find out is during the courtship, is what you see might not be what you get, right? The person has put a big facade about who they are, and you begin to finally understand who they are in the courtship, and you should be ready to pull out and say, that's not what I thought I was getting myself into. Better now than after the marriage. Better now than after the marriage. And I put this question, what is closure? Because, and I know Abuna will talk about it better next week, but for me, closure is a bad word. Why? Because so often when people say, I ended the relationship, or the person ended the relationship with me, but I don't have closure. I just want to know, I want to have closure. What this really means is, I want to figure out a way to change their mind. I want to try to manipulate the situation so that it goes in my way. And unfortunately, that's what it usually ends up trying to happen. So someone will not want to end the relationship or will not want to approach the other person and discuss because they say, I don't have closure. Closure doesn't exist. You're never going to get closure because what you mean by closure is, I don't like how this ended, I want to change it. So I'm done. Anyone have any other questions before we close?
May I clarify something and you correct me, please?
I won't correct you.
No, please. And it's about the friendship thing. Maybe my understanding from what you said, no close friendship, but friendship as acquaintance and as being together in a trip.
Yes.
In an activity, in a meeting. This is the service. This is the type of friendship that might allow us to know one another. How does the person interact with other people? How does the person serve? How does the person go to tasbaha, goes to church? But my understanding, no friendship as no close friendship, no texting in an inappropriate hours or in the late hours, no regular checking on one another while not having a clear boundary for the relationship. So basically no close friendship, but this does not exclude going together on a trip, having an activity, being together, whatever is being facilitated as through a community. This is something that helps us to know one another one way or another that could prepare us for the next step for initiation.
100%. Abuna, you said it much better than I would have put it. Yes, 100%. You ask Abuna now.
So what would you say if, like, let's say somebody was surprised and they were asked from the other person to go out or to start to explore, and then they said, okay, let me think about it. And we said it should like be a couple of days, a week, and then, you know, go back to the person and say
yes or no.
Yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
What if the person doesn't come back? Is this?
Yeah, that's very inappropriate. Yeah, so you can go back and talk about it. I know that it will be very difficult to do that, but yes, that's not what I meant by closure. Yes, that's the right thing to do actually. That's being clear. Any other questions? Yes.
I know we talked a lot, and I know that whatever comes out of a much older person like me may not be very appealing, but I'm a big advocate for marriage and for love and friendship in marriage, and my husband is truly my best friend. So I just want to say, and I really hope again that it doesn't come as cliche, that despite how the world portrays love and marriage as very beautiful, and we say that Christian marriage is a cross, and I hate it when we Egyptians sometimes jokingly say da salibak, because I don't think this is what Abuna meant by a punishment. Salib is a loving and sacrificial relationship that's coming out of very deep love and fondness. And I think that there is beauty and that it's a journey that is worth living only if Christ is in the middle. And I just wanted to say this.
Yes, agreed.
Because sometimes I feel that it can sound a bit intimidating while this is not the intention.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you, Susan. Nice job.
Any other questions or comments?
Buna, thank you very much.
Thank you, Buna.
Thank you. Wonderful presentation, and that helps us to clarify many aspects about relationships, and especially to pursue initiation in a safe way for all parties. This is the objective, like relationship that's ultimately going to end up in a marriage relationship or just whatever, friends, no close friendship, just friends, as meaning brothers and sisters within the same community, need to consider safety of emotions and safety of and the well-being of each and every person that could engage in these are kind of facts or rules of the game to is that we need to get out there and take the initiation. We need to do the proper assessment for my own maturity or the other person's readiness as well, or compatibility, and how to approach this in a safe way, in a way that does not really embarrass the other person, or does not really, or the response does not really embarrass the person who initiates, so that it goes in a good Christian fellowship that really helps all people involved. So again, thank you very much, Abuna.